Okay, and this I've sort of referred to a little bit already. These grounds of inadmissibility, all people who come to the United States are examined or looked at in terms of whether they fall into any of these types of general grounds of disqualification. So this applies both to people who are trying to get their green card, who are applying for permanent residence, and to people who are just coming here temporarily, say as a visitor, or maybe a student, or maybe a temporary worker. And these are the general categories. You see, now health is one of the categories, so that's what I've already explained. If a person tests positive for active tuberculosis, they're not going to be allowed to come to the United States, or they're not going to be allowed to get their green card until they show they've completed the course of treatment and now they're no longer contagious. HIV, as we discussed, has been taken out of there, so it's no longer one of the issues. Other types of issues are political grounds. If a person has belonged to any organizations that are considered subversive today, that are considered terrorist or possibly supporting terrorist groups. In the past, people who belonged to communist organizations, particularly during the Cold War, were denied admission to the United States. It's a whole general category, and it's been somewhat revived since 9/11 and all of the fear around people who may be involved or supporting terrorist groups. People with crimes may be inadmissible to the United States. People who have prior immigration violations, like previously having been deported or coming to the United States with false documents, that sort of thing. And the economic grounds. Here's the public charge. This is where I indicated in the past that HIV could be conceivably an issue if a person was unable to work and immigration was looking for additional proof of financial support, that this intending immigrant really either could work to support him or herself or had family members that could support them. So these grounds, we're only telling you about these so you sort of know where it fits in the immigration process. These grounds of inadmissibility, they kind of lay like a net over all people who are trying to come to the United States. And if you're trying to come, you need to be able to, swim through one of the little holes in the net. If you fall into any of these categories with contagious illnesses, prior crimes, prior deportation, you belong to you've supported a terrorist group, or you cannot support yourself in the United States, you can be denied admission, even if otherwise you qualify for immigration or you qualify for a non-immigrant category to visit the United States. And Richard's going to go through what those categories are. So this is something that still exists. This whole matrix really still exists, but luckily HIV has just been plucked out of it as a problem, and so that's really, fabulous news for everybody. And what's at the bottom here is that HIV status is not a grant. Even in the past, sometimes we would do these trainings and people would come and they would say, I am HIV positive and I want to apply for my green card with an HIV waiver. So some people had the misunderstanding that an HIV waiver actually was a vehicle of immigrating to the United States, that could make someone who otherwise didn't qualify for a green card qualify. And it was never that. It was a way of curing what would otherwise have been a problem, blocking the approval of an immigration case that already fit into one of the regular categories of immigration. Richard's going to go through those for you. So categories that involved employment or that involved family relationship. Those categories could have been blocked for somebody if the person had HIV in the past, and the waiver was used to solve that problem. It wasn't an independent way to immigrate to the United States. So we haven't lost anything by HIV being removed from the grounds of inadmissibility and by us not needing to do HIV waivers anymore. It simply should be a non-issue, and so it really should be 100% good change. Now, this is also just to make people aware. Naturalization is when a person who's a U.S. citizen, who already has a green card, is applying to become a U.S. citizen. And generally, it's available to people who've had a green card for 5 years and have lived in the United States for the majority of that time. There's an exception, a shortcut for people who are married to U.S. citizens, and they can apply in 3 years. If they've had green card for 3 years and lived with their U.S. citizen spouse during that time, they qualify for naturalization, the process of acquiring U.S. citizenship. HIV has never been an issue or never been a reason to deny someone citizenship or naturalization, and it's not a reason to deny someone citizenship now. So certainly if you know anybody who, say, got diagnosed between getting a green card or after they got a green card and they've been worried about applying to immigration for citizenship, even though they've now had their green card for 5 years, that type of person should be encouraged to apply for citizenship because it's the most protected status of immigration, and a person who has citizenship can never be deported no matter what happens. It can travel on a U.S. passport, can apply to bring other relatives, can vote, can participate in the political process, and so it's very much worth doing, and no one should feel discouraged from applying for citizenship because they have HIV. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn you over to Richard, who's going to talk about the immigration categories, and then at the end we'll take questions together.